Hey everybody, this is Adam Strum, and we're about to go cruising into a better financial future with your host, Kim Cruz. Hey everybody, it's time to go cruising into a better financial future. I'm Adam Strum, your host. Kim Cruz can't be with us this week, and we have a guest host, the book creator herself, Dr. Shira Bush.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Now, of course, you all know that here on Cruising into a Better Financial Future, we talk about things that strengthen businesses and strengthen personal finance for those that want to learn the tips and tricks to help them better manage their finances. And we have a special guest this week, Shira, a friend of yours, a friend of mine from many networks that we both belong to. She ran away from corporate when corporate made her run away from corporate, which is kind of funny. And I'm going to give a little background on our guest, if that's okay. She's a Chicago,
Please.
Illinois native. And the best thing is she spent 30 years learning everything, working in corporate insurance before out of the blue she was laid off. And this inspired her rather than push her down. She has that entrepreneurial spirit, and she moved forward. And when we say somebody wrote the book on something, I can honestly say Katrina wrote the book on how to, quote unquote, steal your skills from corporate. Good morning, Katrina. We're glad to have you.
Hi, thanks for having me. That was a wonderful introduction.
I try. Sometimes I even succeed. Um, and
You
that's going to
always
be my book.
succeed, Adam.
That's going to be my book. Is I try, and sometimes I even succeed.
You
Thank you for
always
having me.
succeed.
But we're really happy to have you, and I'd like to give you the floor so that you can tell people a little bit about your story.
I sure will. So, thank you for that introduction earlier. What I want to tell everybody is I'll give you my what I call a personal statement. My name is Katrina Roddy. I am best-selling author of Steal Your Skills from Corporate. I'm also an entrepreneur coach, and I coach on the mindset it takes to transition from corporate to becoming a new entrepreneur, or what I like to say, becoming the CEO of your life. I spent 30 years in corporate, and it was a long journey, but I learned so much along the way. I started at the age of 18, right out of high school. I graduated in June. I started my job in July and college at the same time. I was fortunate enough to go to a college where actually my work became a class of mine. So they would report back to my school how I was doing, if I had on proper business attire. So imagine you leaving high school and your parents already shaken because they got to pay for college. But not only that, you guys are in corporate. You had to buy suits before. My
Of
mama had to
course.
start buying me suits because I had to wear these to school and
I
work
have
at
a
the
whole
same time.
closet full of them, and I rarely use
Man,
them anymore because I don't think that it's as important as corporate makes it out to be.
no, it wasn't. And this field that I worked in corporate, I did corporate insurance, and I worked on very large accounts. So if you can think of the one of the biggest companies you can think of, I probably had that as an account. I like to tell people that I worked with Discover Card. I had Saks Fifth Avenue, Costco. These were the accounts. And instead of prospecting day to day, I prospected years out. So 3 to 5 years is when I prospect out. So what
Wow.
that did for me is made me a pretty solid relationship manager, because I had to foster a relationship between that time to get these bigger companies to say, we like working with her. We enjoy, the services that she can help provide. We know her by this time. So that's what I did. And I did that for 30 years. And coming out of that, because I worked on such large accounts, and I'm not even kidding myself here, but we knew that we brought the money into the company. So we skipped over landmines and after landmine, because we're like, we're in national. We're kind of bringing a lot of money into the company. And then one day it hit. They were like, we're going to try something new.
Surprise.
Surprise. I
Uh,
got a
uh,
call from my boss at the time, and he said, hey, he had been grooming me for certain things, and he said, I think they're going to let me go. He called back 2 hours later and said, they're letting us all go. So it was one of those things where I took a shock, but I had already had in my mind, and be careful what words you use because they will manifest. But I had already had in my mind that I was going to leave corporate by a certain time anyway and start doing what I want to. I just thought I had 4 more years to do it, but I didn't. So what I did was I took my thought process and said, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I started going to networking events, and I started meeting all kinds of people and fabulous people, and learning that there's a world out there of people who are not corporate, and they're so entertaining. They're so innovative. I mean, I met puppet masters. I just met people. I'm like, wow, that's a job. But when you have your head in corporate the whole time, you don't look up. You just know your box.
You don't
And
have a
then you
chance
start,
to look up. I
you don't
mean,
have a chance to look up. You only know your circle of people. So I knew my circle of people for 30 years. And I think what was interesting is that as I'm going to these networking events, I'm helping people with everything. Because I know a lot more than some of the entrepreneurs were knowing. So I'm going to meetings and I'm helping them with budgeting. I'm going to meetings, I'm helping them learn networking. All of these things are happening. And one lady, I don't know who this lady is to this day, but I give her credit. Um, I wouldn't know her if I saw her either. But she said to me,
We won't
you
tell.
give away too much free information. Honey, this is your job now. And I said, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I started thinking in those terms. So that's when the book creation came to mind. I said, I have so many skills that I learned over the years that I could utilize to create my own career that's more fulfilling, something that I can actually help people get through this transition. The transition was not easy for me at all. And if you guys can attest to this,
It's
when
not
you
easy for most people.
when
There
you
are the few that they just slide in and
well,
like sliding into home plate.
if you've ever left corporate and you still, and I think Adam, you mentioned this before, you still have in the back of your mind something that happened. Either you were let go, or even if you quit yourself, you may have had a circle of friends that were there.
sure.
You may have, a lot of people feel unworthy when they left because, you get laid off. There's
Especially
anxiety
if
that
you're
comes
laid
with it.
off or
Yeah,
fired or moved to a department where you're much
exactly.
lower than you were before.
So what I found interesting is that I started doing a little research on it, and that's when I came up with the corporate breakup, because I learned that anxiety, anger, sleep disturbances, some people have chest pain. All of these things come with a breakup, but nobody really talks about it. They talk about a personal breakup, and this is the same thing, and you need to heal from that to move on. So when I created my company, it's a coaching company that it's not it helps people get through that fear of transition, because that's what they're facing, and they may not even know that. They think that they just are learning their skills. They know their skills. Even
Right.
if they weren't in corporate could be a metaphor for life. If you have
Sure.
a mom who organized her kids' soccer team, she has organization skills. These are the things that I help pull out of people when I coach with them. So I just wanted to say that. And I mean, it's a journey. And once people realize that it's actually getting over the fear of transition is what they're doing, they open up to me and I start to coach them extremely well.
Yep. I do a little bit of coaching, as you know, we've spoken.
Yeah,
I do a little bit of coaching in my On Target Strategies company with new entrepreneurs. And what I find is it's just like relationship counseling in a way,
absolutely.
post relationship. What happens is this is what I remember, and it's been a lot of years now. It was 2008 when I walked away from corporate,
Okay.
and that was after 15 years. I only did half, I did half the sentence you did.
Right.
And I say it that way for a reason. Corporate robs you of something. It gives you a lot. It gives you a very good paycheck. It gives you a lot of skills. It gives you an entire world to work in where the rules are always clear, but always changing. Does
Yeah.
that sound about right, Katrina?
100%.
The
100%.
rules are always clear. They're posted right there, or they're sitting on your desk when you walk in.
Yep.
But they're always changing. So
Yeah.
on Monday, they could be saying, well, we need to answer our phones. It's a great day here at Peterson and Peterson. And the next morning, whatever you do, do not say it's a great day here at Peterson and Peterson. And that's
100%.
Tuesday. So the rules are constantly changing. And it's because of that, that the fact that after a couple of years in corporate structured management or above, not as one of the workers on the floor, but when you're in corporate management or above, and I made it all the way to VP at the company I was with.
Yeah, yeah.
And to avoid having them and me get into a fight, I won't name them. I've named them before. People can connect the dots, and that's fine. Thank you, Shira. But the
The
fact is,
tell-all book will come out later. For right now, we'll just keep it a deep, dark secret.
every breakup leaves a scar. It may not be visible, but it's there.
It's there.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
especially when you've done a decade or more in that corporate atmosphere, you're in a microcosm, you're in a world
Yeah.
that doesn't look at the outside. You don't see the hot dog vendor except for your lunch, and you forget that he's
Exactly.
doing a job and that's his livelihood. You just know, hey, I got to go get lunch, and you're running down to that hot dog vendor to get your lunch and get back upstairs.
No, that's his franchise business. That is a
Exactly. I mean, he
Yeah.
may even have
Yeah.
employees. He may have several carts throughout the loop.
Yeah.
I haven't been to Chicago in quite a while, but he may have one at Lincoln Park and one at, he could have carts all over the place.
Right, right.
And it may be a very substantial business. We have no idea whether he's one man working one cart, sole proprietor, or whether he may even have a corporate structure of his own.
Yeah.
But the fact is when you leave that, you feel naked.
Unworthy. Like
You feel raw is a good word for it.
yeah.
Right. You no longer have you would have your corporate identity. So it's almost like being a James Bond for corporate America, because when you leave, you defined yourself as, this is I am, but based on the title given to you by them. And the minute that identity is gone, you no longer feel like a whole person.
That's
Because
absolutely
a part
right.
of you has been ripped away.
And
I
it's
mean, for
interesting
years, all
too.
three of us, for
Yeah.
years, when we met somebody who wasn't from the company,
Exactly.
we all said the same thing, and we all worked for different corporations, but I guarantee you we all said the same thing. Your hand immediately goes out. Hey, nice to meet you. I'm Adam. I'm from, and you named your company. I'm the
Yep.
vice president of X, Y, and Z. Or I'm
Exactly.
the
Correct.
manager of communications, or I'm the, whatever. And you, like a military person, name, rank, and serial number, it's embedded into you. And the next thing you do is, let me give you my card so we can talk at a later date because it's crowded in here.
So Adam, you hit it right on the head. I went through that identity thing. I have friends going through it now. I have that's how you identify. When you come out of that, you don't know what to say. And
You've
people are
lost your identity.
But here's the other thing. People are so tied to that. And the reason I say I help new entrepreneurs become the CEO of their life, because they can identify what CEO is. And now you have a title. I just gave you a title. You're the CEO of your life. But not only that, but you have to start to create this board of directors. I like to use a lot of terms that they could identify with.
Sure.
So there's a personal board of directors.
Well done.
There's 5 people that I make sure you identify in your life. And these 5 people are your mentors. They may be in your life right now and you don't even know them because you've never given them the role that they should have.
Right,
So
because
I
you've
try
never
to use
needed them in
terms
that role yet until
you've
now.
never given them. And so they've tried to help you along the way. And these are people you need to step back to get the support you need. You need a lot of things when you go into it. And anybody who comes out and they have their gung-ho about stuff, your willpower only takes you so far. And you need someone to help
That's
you.
for sure.
You get through it and then you realize this is a lonely sport.
It
So you
is,
start to
but-
get people like yourself and Shira in your corner, and everyone's doing things and you help each other out. And now you have another company you work for,
Sure. But you are your company, and that's the
are
big
your company.
difference. You're the CEO of your life because your life is now your business.
Is your business. Yep, absolutely.
Right. So
All
you have to reshape, and it does take time because it's a very fluid thing, but you need to reshape your identity. It's sort of like you've been working on this clay figurine and you've been spinning this pot, and now all of a sudden
Wow, that's visual.
the pottery wheel's going in the opposite direction. So you now have to reshape so that you can then bake it in the kiln and have this new identity, this new pot called you.
Right.
And how
You still
about I
need to
had
get to the same place. It's just you're taking a
Exactly.
completely different vehicle there.
one other point I'd like to make is that when you come out of it, you have to get people to unthink who you were. I spend time on that every day, getting people to unthink the fact that I'm no longer in a senior role at an insurance company, because they'll still come to you and like your, and I think your friends, your, people who are close to you, they're uncomfortable with what you're doing now. So they want to find new jobs for you. And they, oh, I
Right.
know this person who can get you into, and they don't understand that you've made up your mind and you are going to take this entrepreneurial role. So it takes time for them to unthink who you were. And I'm at a point now where people have starting to unthink. They're watching and seeing that I'm doing things that are
It's a
different. And
beautiful thing. That's the
it's
second stage of the growth after corporate. I mean,
yes, it is.
and here's the funny part. I still have people call me occasionally that I'm friends with for the last 30 plus years.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, are you still in the telecommunications game? And I'm like,
Yep.
yeah, I'm using their service, if that's what you mean.
Yeah.
But I no longer manage their service. I no longer train hundreds of people. I no longer set the rules for training
Yeah.
of customer service and business development. That's not my role anymore. Now my role is helping people break free of wage slavery.
Yes.
And I'm sure you've watched a couple of episodes now. I'm a big proponent of the universal basic income, and I have a big special coming up, and I think I'd like to have you as part of that big special when I do
Good.
it, because I'm
Good.
sure you have opinions on this as well.
I got a lot of opinions, Adam.
I know you do. I know you do. And most of them
And
are
we
really good ones.
certainly appreciate them, Katrina. We really do.
Thank
But
you.
I'm going to plug it one more time. I believe that universal basic income could put an end to the wage slavery mindset, to give people a lot more support in finding the work they want to do instead of the work they have to do. Very few people want to do certain jobs, like, for instance, garbage collector. But the funny part is there are people out there that that's their aspiration. It's what they want to do. And you end up with people who don't want to do the job doing the job, and the people who do want to do the job are locked out because there's no openings for them to get into it. When you take away the need to have that job, then the people who want it do it, and they're going to do it better because they enjoy it.
They enjoy it. Yeah.
And that's the psychology behind universal basic income. The finance behind it's another whole story, and that's something I'm an expert at, so I can't wait till we have that big special. We have a great article that actually links into what I just said.
Oh, I love it.
And I'm going to let Dr. Shira Bush introduce our article of the week.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, as you're talking about this, I'm sitting here thinking about the work that I do with people in terms of people's passion and what gives them joy and what juices them and gets them out of bed in the morning moving forward, and what the difference they really want to make in the world, and how critical and so important that is. So I'm definitely looking forward to that conversation, Adam.
Yeah.
So speaking of jobs and moving forward, the article this time is called "What is Equal Pay Day?" And it's a really great article that came out on March 24th. The significance of March 24th is that about 25 years ago, and to think 1996 was 25 years ago, to me at this point is still mind-blowing. However, that became Equal Pay Day. And the reason it became Equal Pay Day is it takes that long for women and some minorities to make the same amount of money as men did the year before. So when they close out the year on December 31st, we still have to work till March 24th to make up the difference. Now, here's a cool part is they asked people to wear red on March 24th. This morning, as you can see, we all showed up in our red in solidarity, even though it's a little late in terms of what day this got filmed.
It's
It's
never
never too late.
It's never too
Exactly
late.
right.
However,
It is never too late.
That's what I was going to say. We're doing it in solidarity. Now, here's another interesting fact that most people don't know is that when we go to work, men and women generally work, let's call it a traditional 9 to 5 type job.
That's what
You
they
know, we're
call it.
talking
Okay.
corporate America here. Now, here's what's interesting. Women start working for free at approximately 2:40 in the afternoon. So everything from 2:40 to 5, the corporate America is getting for free because they're paying us that much less than the men. The statistics were mind-blowing. It basically says women make 84 cents for every dollar a man earns. Okay,
Overall.
and and when you start bringing in people of color and other minorities, now all of a sudden the disparity just keeps growing.
It's
Yeah,
horrible.
I think for African American women, it's 64 cents.
Yeah,
So
Instead of
it-
83, yes.
yeah, instead of 83. And then when you talk about Hispanic and Asian, the gap, well, I was talking about Hispanic and transgender, the gap is just, they can't even
They can't
find,
even make ends meet.
Yeah.
right. That's
Um,
where the 53 cents comes in.
yeah.
And
Right.
here's what's really crazy. And the article is great. I read the whole thing, but it doesn't touch on some of the most important things that have happened in the past 20 years that have been ignored. For
Mm.
instance, President Obama, when he was president, signed the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act, which was supposed to close this gap. And it didn't.
And it didn't, yes. Good
States
point,
went and
Adam.
undid what the federal law said
Wow.
should happen. Each state then ran to its, Republican Senate majority, in the state, and they did things to undo the federal act because wages are different in every state. Some states are right to work states, which is the right to work for less money. Some
Right.
places are,
That's what it is.
some places are unionized, and you have to join a union in order to work in a union shop, whether you like it or not.
Right.
So, we have different work laws in every state. They all alter a little bit differently. I grew up working in New York City. My corporate career was in New York City. I know, Katrina, your corporate career was in Chicago, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is a big city as well. But someone may have their corporate career in Ozark,
Yeah.
which is nothing like what you and I did. It's a completely different corporate style. All of that being said, women are still not being paid fairly. And the craziest part is every single study done has found that women are more efficient, that women are more on time. They hit their time for projects more often than men do. Women are more valuable to the corporate structure than men are in most cases. And yet
And
somehow, just like with representation, I bring this up a lot, you're 53% of the population and 20% of the representation. It makes no sense to me. It blows my mind that that's true. It should not be that way. The fact that we have been a country for 240 plus years and have yet to have a woman president shows me that we're a third world country. That's
we're
what it
getting
shows me. I don't care
closer.
how advanced our technology is, we're a third world country.
Adam,
We got closer, Adam, this time. We have a woman in
We're
the White
closer.
House.
I have nothing but the highest respect for Kamala.
yeah.
You know, we have the first gentleman for the first, well, second gentleman technically.
Yes, but
So,
he's
and
amazing.
a
I don't know
woman
if
of
you've ever heard
color.
him speak. He is amazing. He's a great speaker.
He's brilliant, brilliant,
So
brilliant.
Adam, what the other thing I was gonna say, even when we talk about the pay, is I don't think there's an article that I wrote, or there's a speaking I did to on a talk show about the diversity and the myths of diversity in the workplace. And one of the myths is we're already diverse, like we're diverse enough already. And I
I
think
haven't been in my boardrooms.
well, companies do believe that. They're like, we hire these people in, so we're diverse because they can see, that they've hired several different people in, whether it's race, gender. They have to identify what diversity is first, because it's not just race and gender. It goes beyond that. But I think what they're missing, and I shouldn't say I know they're missing a point, especially if they're using that terminology, is that you can't just have diversity. It has to have inclusion as well. And inclusion definitely means I'm going to include them in a higher pay. I'm going to include them. It means everything. You can't have one without the other. And I think people focus on diversity and they don't focus on the inclusion. Don't bring me in as a Black woman and then not include me.
Right.
Don't
I
bring
mean,
a female in
they're
and
using
then don't
diversity as a
include.
shield.
Yes,
Instead of
absolutely.
as a plan, it becomes
And-
a shield. Oh no, we have 4 people of color in this
Yeah.
department and 2 Asians in that department. We're
Yeah.
fully diverse. Meanwhile,
Yeah.
all of them are making minimum wage while the CEO
Because
makes
they're not
350 million a
included.
year.
So I like to
Correct.
say, you can't have one without the other. You can't have peanut butter without jelly. You can't have ham, no burger. You can't have right without left. It has to balance. So diversity comes with inclusion, and I think companies need to know that, and that's where they fall short. You can't treat everyone the same way. You have to have a level of it. Not only that, but
Sure.
I can remember times being in corporate where I did not make the same amount as everyone else. And a lot
Same
of that,
here.
here's another article that I wrote on, it's on systemic injustice in the world that I lived in, speaking from my space. And it was definitely, as I looked around, I'm doing the same job as some of the other. I came from insurance. It's a white male dominated industry. It's like, it's like banking, and that's not a secret to anyone. So as I'm coming through the ranks, I can see that people are getting promoted. We're doing the same thing. We're in the same program together. They're getting promoted. They're getting pay raises. They're getting bonuses. They're getting all of these things. And my stuff came to a screeching halt. And I started to question it. And they're like, oh, no, you're doing this. And I'm like, I'm not crazy. Like,
No,
you
you're
hired
pressed
me
up
as a
against the glass ceiling.
Exactly. And so I clearly saw that. There's a lot of things. I was there for 30 years. I had to see
See,
something.
Katrina, here's what's scary. I saw it from the other side. See, I'd be given my team, right? Now
Wow.
I am the older white male. I'd be given my team, and my team would have women, people of color, age, this, that, the other. It would
Yeah.
have a diverse team, yes, to the viewer. But I knew what everybody was getting, and I knew the bonuses I was getting for their work.
Oh,
Now, in the beginning, because I didn't know better, I was fine with it.
yeah.
But by the time I was ready to leave, see, I started in the early 90s and I made it to 2008, right? By the
Okay.
time 2000 rolled around, when they did this, what I would do is I would take that bonus and do something for the whole team.
Yeah.
I wouldn't keep it anymore. And I found that every time I did that, it came back to me in the form of better numbers, less people calling out, less people dropping off, less
Yeah.
people, and more customers wanting what we were offering, whatever that may have been at the time. And so that's where I learned all about how karma really does work. What you
Yeah.
put out and what you put in is what you get back.
That's absolutely right. You're
Oh,
absolutely
without any question, as the director of sales and marketing, training and development, and being the woman, I was still paid at one point. I was paid 20,000 less, and yet I was overseeing another director because he couldn't do what they wanted and didn't understand. And then I had my staff of 20, 30, 40, and like Adam, I was able to see, so I was able to manage the salaries so that everybody was equal, yet I was the one that was not being paid equitably.
You want to hear something? Go ahead.
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
I left a company once and was hired at another company. One of my competitors brought me over. They didn't even ask how much I made. They just said, we're going to give her this amount of money. Do you know that money was 60% more than what I'd made at the other company? Because they
Wow.
assumed that with my accolades and the titles they assumed that I was making what everybody else made. It was 60%. It was
Wow.
salary to go to this other company.
Wow.
That's how when I started to realize they're not paying me the same as they're paying other people. I'm doing the same work or more, but
that was your first partial escape.
That was my first partial escape. I took my skills at that point and was afraid and moved to another company, as most people do.
Right. And then eventually you moved your skills to yourself.
Yeah.
Which is
and
the
I
most
said, I can't
valuable
do it.
place the skills can be.
Exactly.
Now, we have 5 questions
Oh,
that we
okay.
picked out. These are from either viewers of the channel or people who've come to On Target Strategies for coaching and development, or have gone to Kim Cruz to get on the road to better credit, or, you know, that's where we amass our questions from a bunch of different places. But Shira and I are going to throw questions out. We're going to let you as the expert answer them. We're going to give a little bit of our own opinion to them as well.
Okay.
And let's see if we can get through 5 of them. And
Do you have the Jeopardy music so I can, you know?
Oh, you'll be fine. You'll be fine.
I don't think you'll need to worry. You're the expert for a reason. And when you see these, when you hear these questions, basically, they're going to be right up your alley. It's what you do.
Oh, without any question.
So, Shira, you want to read the first question?
Sure. So our first question comes in from Brenda in Minnesota. And her question is, what can I do to be better to be better recognized in my company? Maybe she also wants to be organized and then recognized, but we'll stick to what
she gets organized. That'll help her get recognized.
Absolutely. So what can she do to be better recognized in her company?
So Brenda, thank you for the question. I appreciate it. Here's what I'll say. You can take on other tasks. Like, you know, I always had a plan when I worked in corporate. I had their goals for me and I had my own goals, and I worked towards both. I would take care of their goals so that I can get back to mine. And if your goal is to be better recognized, then you have to come up with strategies to do that. And some of the tips I can give you is take on assignments. Some assignments may not even exist yet, but sometimes you want to take those on and then you want to show. The biggest thing that I did, and I learned this from a very, very good manager of mine, was I learned the I speech. What that means is that a lot of times women, when you work in corporate, we like to say we. We say, we did this, my team did this, we did this. And there was one of my managers at the time, he was a very good friend of mine, pulled me to the side and said, I watched you formulate that. I watched you. So you have to start giving me an I speech, because that's what the men here do. They come in and pump their chest and say, I. And so Brenda, I would say, take on some responsibility that, you know, maybe you can see there's a little change that needs to happen in admin. There's a little change that needs to happen. Take on projects if you'd like, and then make it an I speech and keep track of that. Here's what I did, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. I'll go next because Shira asked the question. So Brenda, here's what I know from the rat race of corporate America, okay, is you don't have to be a brown nose or as they call it, a backside kisser to get ahead. You don't, but you do have to be recognized. Now, to get recognized, 2 things have to happen. A, you cannot be quiet. The quiet person usually does all the work, gets none of the recognition, and never moves ahead. So you can't be quiet, but it doesn't mean that you have to be annoying either. So you want to speak up. You want to let your management team, whoever's above you, know that you're available for more than what you're doing. That's number 1. Katrina hit that nail right on the head. You've got to make yourself more available, but every time that there's a meeting that you're in, make sure you ask a question. Even if you really didn't have one, make one. Get yourself seen. Yeah. Because I'll tell you right now that 85% of the employees of every corporation, upper management has no clue who they are. And they never will. It does not matter how loud they get. Doesn't matter if there's a strike, no strike, none of that. They will never recognize those 85% as even being there. The only people those upper management people recognize are the people who hold seats above theirs. Yeah. Because that's their goal, is to take one of those seats eventually. And that's how it works. And that's why I'm so against the whole hierarchy of corporate America now. But the fact is you don't have to, you know, just be a yes master to your boss. That's not necessary. But what you have to be is, you know, I could do more for you. That's all you really need to have to say to your boss, is go to them and say, you know, I'm up to date. Everything's good. What other projects do you have for me to work on? Show them that you're excelling. Show them that you have a value, because that's what they don't see a person. They see a dollar sign. They see a value. Everyone who works for you, everyone who worked for me, I had 193 people below me at the company I was with. All of them to me were, well, what are they good at? And I would just look at spreadsheets. I never knew the people. I just knew what their numbers were. And when
Yep.
something came up, the person who had the numbers for X was the person that the extra project went to.
Yeah.
All right, Shira, go ahead. Your turn.
No, I think everybody's hit the nail on the head. The big thing is I would even, my language would be, you know, what do you have going on and how can I best support you? Would be my question to them individually. And when they're in the meeting, if you're not sure what to ask, one of the best questions you can always formulate is a clarification question.
Yep.
Clarify
Yep.
the process they're talking about, the methodology they're talking about, a system, maybe who the players are. Ask a qualifying question to extract more information from the upper bodies. What that shows is that they see you're thinking forward, you're thinking in advance, you're attempting to be proactive. Even if you're not sure what you're asking, ask anyway, because that speaks volumes to them.
Yeah, that's a good point, Shira. When you ask the question, it shows interest.
Yep.
So
I
they're
totally
in
agree.
the meeting, then they possibly could be nervous as well because they're reading the crowd. And if everyone's sitting like this, and you perk up and say, "Can you explain that again?" They're focused on you. So yeah,
Exactly. It makes you force recognition on
Yes.
whoever's leading the meeting. And
yes.
this leads us right into the second question, which comes from Florida Man. No, I'm sorry, Jim in Florida.
Jim.
He
Okay.
is a man in Florida,
I
Adam.
know,
It's
but
okay.
Florida Man has a bad connotation. I don't want to get
Yes.
into that. But the Jim in Florida wants to know what's the most important lesson a person can learn from working for others.
Ooh.
Ooh, that's a juicy one,
Yes,
Katrina.
it is.
Well, what I would take from that is what I can learn from working with others is who I am as a person, my personality, how I fit in what part of the puzzle do I fit is what I learned with working with others. And I could give you an example. Um, I worked in a team environment, or I would create a team. You know, whenever we get an accountant, it came to me first. And then I would find a team of people to help me with this account. And what I would do is I had different personalities the entire time because it's based on the account. I would be a very avid listener to everybody around the table to figure out where I fit in. How do I use my skills? So I guess I started using my skills before I started using my skills. Before I
That's
stole
why
them.
they're your skills. They became more and more apparent.
Exactly. So one of the biggest skills I have is being able to camouflage my way into different scenarios. And so if you can just sit back and just kind of listen to the way it's going and learn more about who you are as a person and how you work with things. And there's a chapter in my book where I talk about, are you a marathoner or a sprinter? And I identify with being a sprinter. I can work. I have different muscle memory. I go really fast for a short period of time, and then I sit back and I see how it plays out. Whereas other people go on and on, but that doesn't mean one is right and one is wrong. It just identified with how you work as a person. So the biggest thing you'll get from working with others is you'll learn who you are as a person.
Okay, Shira, what do you think?
To me, that's a really great question, because growing up in corporate, as I call it, I learned so much about being a team player, because I was forced, given the roles that I had and the positions I held, to always be a team player, but I had to be a different team player depending upon the role, the position, the project, and how to move forward. So in addition to learning about who I was, I got to learn how to read people, how to build teams together and work with different people and still achieve the results, because at the end of the day, I still had to have those results done.
Yeah.
So building the teams, engaging the teams consistently long term, what did it take? and I had to plan it out, and each plan was so different because the personalities were so different.
Yep.
And looking at what each employee or staff person came in with at any given point. And a big piece, honestly, was what was going on in their personal lives, because that would always seem to affect what was going on in their corporate life.
It's amazing how
So,
they bleed into one another, isn't it?
Yeah. And they always talk
All
about
right.
work-life balance.
So Jim, I'm gonna say the quiet part out loud in my answer. All right, Jim? And I think Katrina knows where I'm going just by my saying that. So we all remember, the skills that Shira's talking about, the skills Katrina's talking about, those are skills you're going to pick up in working in the corporate environment, no matter what you do. There's no way to avoid it. They're going to force you to be a part of a team here and a part of a team there, and they're going to force you to learn some structure, not all of it. They're going to leave enough rope for you to hang yourself. But I'm going to say the quiet part out loud. We've all heard of the book, Everything I Needed to Know About Life I Learned in Kindergarten, right? We all know this book.
Yep.
Everything I needed to know how not to do in business, I learned in corporate.
that's
Okay?
true. Oh, that is so
So,
true,
Jim,
Adam.
the most effective thing you can learn from working for other people is watch their mistakes so that you don't make them when you venture out on your own. Okay, you can be the greatest team player in the world. You can be the best salesman that company's ever had. You might be a clerical wizard who can fix the copy machine and get everything else done on top of it and save the company money. And that's great. They're going to love you and value you for all that. But just keep your ear open and listen for the mistakes. Listen for when your boss is most angry, because that's when a mistake has been made and it's coming down on him. And learn from those mistakes so that you don't repeat them when you become the boss, one way or the other.
That's a good
That's
one.
the quiet part we never talk about out loud, but I know Katrina's talked about it one-on-one with her coaching people. I know Shira's talked about it with her people.
Oh, without any question.
It's the quiet part that we never say. The biggest thing you can learn from working for others is what not to do.
Yeah.
And that's my answer. I hope it's
Definitely.
appreciated, but believe me, that will take you further than anything else you can learn, because when you're ready, when you finally break free, whether it's an MLM, a network marketing, a small business, a large business, a corporate entity, a charity, I don't care which direction you're going to go in, you want to know what not to do. Katrina, recently in an event that I was at with you, you mentioned the one thing that was your weakness when you ventured out on your own that you forgot to do all the research on was taxes.
Yeah.
I pay attention. I never forget what people say.
Yeah.
I have a mind like a steel trap when it comes to that. And there you go.
Thank God he does, let me tell you.
Shira knows what I'm talking about. I've helped her with a few projects, but the fact of the matter is that's something you probably could have learned more about, but it was something you didn't pay attention to because you had your thing to do.
Exactly.
Every company runs into tax trouble, every one of them.
Yeah.
It's impossible not to, because the tax code for companies is 437,000 pages, and CPAs look at it and go, what the hell is this? So, people who know it don't know it.
Yeah. And
they don't know it.
And back to your point, now when I coach people, I make sure I talk to them about making sure they get a tax person, because these are things I'm telling them, learn from me. I'm telling you, these are things that I struggled with, and I'm trying to help you avoid them by being the foresight before you get there.
Right. Nothing.
So that was a good one, Adam.
Learning from
us more than a mistake.
Right. Again, that's learning from the mistakes.
Yeah. That's a good one, Adam.
Doesn't matter where, doesn't matter how, and it doesn't matter who, it's still learning from other people's mistakes.
It also doesn't matter how big.
Or how small.
Right, or how small. Every mistake has a lesson behind it, but just take a look at some of the greatest entrepreneurs of our lifetime, and you'll find that a lot of them had peaks and valleys, and those valleys might get really, really low at times, but they always come back. And why? Because they take the time and say, why did the mistake happen, and how do I make sure it never happens again?
You know what I want your audience,
one at a time.
I was going to say, I want your audience to do a little research project and find out how many mistakes did Jeff Bezos make with his Amazon products before he got it right with some of the ones we see today. I mean, he had some things on his list that you're like, He tried it out for a year and it didn't happen. There were some mistakes in there. So my point is, he learned from these mistakes, identified with them, went back and researched and dug deep into them before he put out another product.
Same
So
for
it
Bill
was,
Gates. If you do
yeah,
exactly the same thing and go look at what Microsoft went through from 1990
yeah,
to 1995 when their first real Windows product came out, the mistakes were just all over the place, from
yeah,
computers that would actually burst into flames because they weren't properly fanned and the CPUs would overheat. And
yes,
he
yep,
talks about this in his TED Talks.
yeah.
You know, how many mistakes they made in that garage where they were designing the first home computer. So, you know, same thing, Bezos, Amazon lost money its first 7 years in business. It didn't make
Yep.
money till its eighth year.
Absolutely. I mean, look at Sam Walton and Walmart.
Yeah.
Same
It's,
thing.
Yes,
if
absolutely.
even if you look, let's go back in history and let's take a look at Thomas Edison
Or Henry Ford.
or Henry Ford,
All of them.
all of them, Carnegie, you know, all of them. There
I
is
don't even
not
have to,
one.
Dr. Shira, I don't have to go back that far. I can look at myself.
And that's why you're our guest today.
Totally.
Shira, let's do question 3 because we're running low on time.
Okay, we'll
to do
make
the
it. I
other
have faith in us. Lisa in Rhode Island asks, how much money should I save before I start my own business?
Ooh,
Juicy, juicy.
juicy, juicy. So here's what I can say to you, Lisa. Nobody knows that number. Nobody knows that number. What you do have to understand, though, is that every business, every person that starts a business, they have to have an investment. You have to invest in your business, right? So we don't know what that number is for you. You have to determine what you're going to need in order to do the business that you're doing. For me, I'm giving you an example of myself. I just happen to have enough, and this is why I have an ideal client or a customer avatar now, is, and I, you know, the people who are coming out of corporate, I like to say your severance is your savior at this point, because what it does, it helps you have enough of a cushion to try things out, and to try and figure things out. Now, if you are doing something and you don't have enough to do, maybe that becomes your side hustle instead of an actual business. You can't put both feet in. But if you're ready to put both feet in, you have to identify with, what do I need to run this business? Is it product based? Is it, you have to identify what businesses it is first.
Product-based, service-based.
Product based, service based. You have to get a coach. I recommend coaching for everyone. My coach has a coach. I have a coach. My coach has a coach. Their coach. You have
The
to have
best
someone.
coaches all have coaches up and down the line,
Yes.
including
So you
me.
have to be able to identify when you need a coach, because you can't do it alone. You'll get there eventually if you had to, but it's going to take you longer, and it may take you more money to get there. So you just have to figure these things out and say, I'm going to take 10 grand, 25 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand, whatever your number is, and kind of figure out what you need in that first, and then go from there. There's no solid answer to that.
Oh,
Um,
definitely not.
yeah,
Definitely
there's
not.
no, yeah, there's no
I'll pick
solid.
up the ball and run with it from right
Yeah.
there.
Go.
Lisa, that was the name, right? Lisa?
Yeah, Lisa.
Lisa, I'm going to tell you the truth. It's somewhere between 1 penny and $1 trillion. That's the truth. I know people who have started a business with 1 penny who are now billionaires. I know people who have thrown $1 billion at a business and are now homeless. So it's not about the money. It's about your passion. It's truly about what you want to build, and putting your business plan together with a good coach. And just so you know, Tony Robbins, who is the coach to tens of thousands of people, has a coach. I happen to know this because I've met Tony Robbins' coach. So, you know, you know, we all have these coaches. We all have mentors we turn to, and they may not even be mentors. They may be on a lower scale, but they're people that we can sound off that we know will get good advice from. That's a true mentor. They don't have to be on a level above you. They just have to be able to hear what you're saying and give you honest and clear feedback. That's what makes a mentor. Not that they necessarily have more experience. That's not a necessity to be a coach or a mentor. The necessity is to be honest. That's the necessity to be a good mentor.
Oh, absolutely. I've got to agree with that, Adam. And
So, Lisa,
go
put it
ahead.
in your business plan. I'm going to let Shira answer next. So you're going to be able to give the whole answer. But Lisa, put it in your business plan. Put your passion in that business plan and don't worry about the money. If your passion is there and your plan is solid, the money will be there, whether you want it to be or not. Somebody will invest in the fact that you want to do X, Y, or Z, and the money will show up. I know I've started 5 companies in the past 10 years. And for 3 of them, I had just enough to file the LLC, $100. That was all I had I could spend on it. One of them, it now brings in about 340,000 a year. I was talking to Shira about this just the other day.
Yeah, definitely.
One of them is defunct due to COVID, and I'm going to make a comeback with it. And the third one that's still open, 2 of them I've merged into other companies. You know, mergers happen all the time. I'm not going to get into a whole corporate merger thing. But the fact of the matter is the 3 that still stand. And I still have people willing to fight to keep them open because the business plan and the passion for the product that I'm offering
Yeah, the
is
passion
there,
Yeah.
there. And as long as that's what Shark Tank's looking for, more than they are the numbers. The numbers always come second. The pitch always comes first. There's a reason why the pitch comes first. They're more worried about whether or not you're all in than whether or not you have any of your own, or whether or not you've sold 1 million already, or whether or not the numbers are there.
Or you sold 2. It is. It's, you know, I had an opportunity to spend some time with Harrington, who helped build Shark Tank and pitch and train people to pitch for Shark Tank and has direct connections. You know, for me, I always ended up, my company started on a shoestring. And the money comes once you have that clarity. And I cannot say enough, like Adam's saying about the passion. If you're passionate and believe in whatever it is you're doing, that it's going to make a difference and help people at whatever level, that's what's most important. That's what people are going to buy into. And when people invest in you, it may not look like a $5,000 check or a $500,000 check or a $5 bill. They may invest in you in time. They may give you their services. It can look a lot of different ways. The one thing I would say is say yes, figure it out how later. So it isn't even about the money. I've never worried about the money because it always seemed to come. It was like having a fairy godmother. I'd call my coach and go, "Oh my God." And she'd go, "Stay true, stay true." And always within 36, 48 hours, the longest I ever had to wait was 72 hours. The money, the solution, whatever it was, would show up.
It showed up.
Have faith, walk in faith.
Do you know what the
and it
3
will
P's
show
are,
up.
Shira? Katrina, do either of you know what the 3 P's are when it comes to planning a new business?
Well, which 3 P's?
And money's
I'm
not in
focused.
them. Money's not in there
Not in
because
them.
nothing with money starts with P. Passion, planning, perseverance.
Personal, right.
Yeah.
You have all 3 of those, your business is going to be a success, even if you live in a tent in an alley.
But I think the point both of you are making is that your message has to be extremely clear. You have to have some type of worthiness, and you know, people like to say you have to have your why. You know, your why should make you cry because it gives you the passion that you need. And you have to talk about that because that's what's holding you together. That's what's keeping you moving forward. And if you don't have the right message, like when I coach with individuals, I don't coach them on the marketing piece until towards the end of my coaching, because people will go out and they spend all this money on all these pretty things. They have all of this stuff that comes in. They have the flyers, the brochures, all of this stuff that they pay for. Their message is wrong. So now they've spent all of this money, and that's where people blow a lot of their budget is on the marketing. They have all of this stuff done and they don't even have a clear message. No one's buying into what they're saying. So I think
they did marketing, they forgot branding, and you have to mix the 2.
Yep.
We've actually answered the next question, but I'm going to put it out there just so we can get a teeny bit more detail. Greg out in Michigan wants to know what the #1 thing he must do if he's going to make the change from being a worker to being an owner.
Have a clear message.
Yep, we just talked about it. So I said we've
Yeah,
already answered it, but yeah, for me, it's plan.
plan.
Make sure you have a strategy and a plan B in case your strategy fails.
Yes, 100%.
Shira, what would you throw out there for that?
I've got to, I agree with planning and laying it out there, but sometimes the old adage, you plan, God laughs. So I'm going to go with perseverance as
Yeah, don't give
Pete,
up.
that has, passion and perseverance have to be there. And I've got to piggyback to the why. If you do not have a clear why, you're not going to get out of bed in the morning on those difficult days and put one foot in front of the other and do what needs to be done.
Yeah.
And you're not going to move forward. So yeah, I'm going with perseverance, Alex, for
And
200.
what I can say is my favorite quote is, if you're persistent, you'll get it. If you're consistent, you'll keep it. And I live with that all the
Little
time.
from
I write
column
it.
A,
Great.
a little from column B makes a really good lunch.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, let's get that last question out there.
I was just going to say, Melissa in Colorado, how do I overcome my fear of being, quote, the boss? It always scares me that I'll not be able to lead effectively.
Ooh.
Oh, the fear of being the boss. Then I can say to you that there are some other things that are causing this fear. Um, there's something deeper than that, because first of all, you won't be a boss. There's a difference between a boss and a leader. If you continue to do what you do from your heart, you become a leader. And here's a great example. When I worked in corporate, when I first took my first management position, I was the youngest manager in this sales organization where they gave out jackets like if you were at the Masters. So I managed 16 individuals, 8 of them had jackets. So they're looking at me like, what is this girl going to teach us? She's younger. She has all of this stuff, we don't understand her world. What is she going to teach me that I don't know? I got a jacket.
Everything.
And so,
That's
yeah.
the
And
answer.
so
Everything.
what I did was continue to be true to myself and work as I did if it was my own business, which may then turn me into a leader, because people would start to see I wasn't just telling them to do stuff. These are the things I was doing. So you take out the title boss and you keep doing what you're doing. And they said, hey, maybe that can work. When these individuals went on vacation who had their jackets, and I would step in and just kind of manage their desk while they were gone. And they'd come back and now they're like, well, what did you do? Now my client doesn't want to talk to me anymore. They want to talk to you.
Oops.
Because I was true to myself and I never tried to, I said things, and it's funny you said this earlier, Adam. What I said to them, and it's working with a sales team, is people should have to want to work with you, not have to. And I lived by that. And I would say, do they want to or do they have to? And that's all I would ask all the time. And it just became, they saw me as a leader and not their boss. And that way
Exactly.
it's reciprocated.
I hate that word boss.
I hate
really
that.
do.
Yeah.
For me, it's all about leading by example and being the role
Yep.
model, doing what you are willing to do to get where you are, and also being there with them to show them, but not pushing it down their throats or forcing them, but having them want to step up and be better.
Yeah, that's good.
So I had a problem with this whole thing. I'm going to address this question from a I've done this twice today, from a totally different angle. I happened to be like Shira had been. I was the VP of training and development.
Yep.
So I had a very unique position because I'm not dealing with outside sources. I'm not dealing with customers. I'm dealing internally. I'm dealing with growing our internal strength. So I'm working 99% of the time with people that are in my company already. I'm not trying to sell them on anything. However, I did have a team. We had 16 trainers. They were part of my team. I had other people that are part of my team. And when I was made their quote unquote boss, and corporate America has a big hang up on that word boss. They love to use it. I love to eliminate it. So no. I looked at my team and it turned out, and this is a true story, that I had a total of 52 members on this team. And as we know, there are 52 weeks in the year. Each week, one of them would be the leader.
Yep.
Best way to do it.
When you
So-
empower people, the
It gave
sky's
them
the limit.
incentive to be there for
That's
their
the
week,
only
number
way.
one.
Yeah.
But it also gave them a unique insight into what else is going on besides what they do.
Yeah.
And that's the effective way to be a quote unquote boss or leader, is make sure everyone knows that you're not overlooking what their value is and what they do and what they bring to whatever you're working on. But by giving them that, they're forced to look at what the secretary, the copy guy, the this, the that,
Yeah.
the mailroom clerk, and how
Yeah.
important, if you didn't have that mailroom clerk, your whole $30 billion department shuts down because of that $15 an hour mailroom clerk,
Yeah.
because he's not sending out your proposals on time. So, you know, until you understand that every cog in the wheel is important, no matter how low the level may seem, you're not going to be an effective boss / leader. So
That is-
stop worrying about it. Stop being afraid of it and delegate, because that's the number one thing a good leader learns how to do, is delegate.
Embrace
Sit
the
back to
role and
watch
then
and
delegate.
analyze.
Yeah.
Embrace
Exactly.
the role, then delegate.
I had
Adam.
one manager once say to our group, she was all about empowerment, and she said, "Here's the thing you should know about working in this department. I will treat you as an adult until you act like a kid."
I've heard that. Yep.
And so
Like
all she,
that.
The
that
old,
just
if you don't
meant
want to
she-
be treated like a child, stop acting like one.
yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
going to hover over you. I'm not going to ask you to make sure you get your work done. I am just going to, I hired you as a professional. And so if you need my help, you can come to me. But it's more about empowering people to do what they do. And
Right.
use
We
the
had a
machine.
no-nonsense woman like that where I worked. Her name was Linda. And I respected her. I didn't like her, but I respected her. She would
Yeah.
meet with her team for the first time, right next to where I'm meeting with mine, as we were assigned new teams, because every year, and when you're in training and development, you have a new team.
Okay.
Because everyone you trained moves on. So we had new people every year. And Linda would do something completely different than what I do. I would introduce myself and then start introducing the plan of, and starting to, you know, put the names in order of who's going to be the leader each week. But
Yeah.
Linda's thing was a list. She goes, there's a checklist here. Let's make it clear, I'm not your parent. I'm not Judge Judy. This is what she would say. I'm not Judge Judy. I'm not a traffic cop. She goes, we have a goal and we have to meet that goal together. She goes, don't come to me and tell me so-and-so took your stapler. I don't care. Go to the supply room, get a new stapler. Don't bother me with this stuff. We need to accomplish our goals and we need to do it as a team. And she was a team builder. And that's fine. You know, we all have these different labels we get in life and in corporate America.
Yeah.
Some people are leaders, some people are followers,
Yeah.
some people are both. Some people lead and follow simultaneously.
Yeah.
So stop worrying about the label boss, because that's where you're getting hung up, and
Yeah.
start worrying about the label leader. Leader is more important than boss will ever be.
Yes. Good.
The only person that should really continue to own the title of boss is our good friend, Bruce Springsteen.
He
That's
is the
all I
boss.
gotta say.
He is the boss. There's no doubt about it, but it's a different type of boss. And I'm
Yeah,
very
I
happy
know.
about that.
Like I said, he is the boss. Let the name remain with him.
Well, I thank your viewers for sending those questions in, because they were very spot on, and I feel like we've been able to answer them. So
I
thank
think
you.
we brought a lot of value to the people watching today who had similar questions,
Yes.
who might be stuck in the corporate rut. And I know
Yeah.
Katrina knows the corporate rut. That's where you're just literally going through the motions every day. And
Break up.
your leadership would never even notice that you're going through the motions every day, because you're still churning out whatever you churn out. And then you go home and you just plop in front of your TV for 6 hours and then fall asleep.
Yeah.
It's called the corporate rut, and everybody hits it at some point in corporate America, because there's a glass ceiling for everyone. And unfortunately, it is lower for women. It is lower even for women of color. It is lower but there's a glass ceiling for everyone. in corporate America. And when
Yep.
they hit it, they don't understand what it is because it doesn't necessarily apply to the white guy who's 38 years old, but he's hitting it and doesn't know he's hitting it. And he hits the corporate rut where, why am I doing all this? I'm never going to advance beyond where I am.
Exactly. And even more, like after 2020, I have so many friends who are still in corporate and they're concerned. When I did my study with the APA, which is the association, I mean, the American Psychology Association, I read a study that said there are more people that are still anxious that work in the environment than the ones who had to leave the environment because now they're overworked. They don't know when it's their turn to leave and they have this anxiety built up. And so now after we're seeing the companies make a turn after this, after the pandemic, they don't know if they can sustain having people there. So now people are kind of scrambling in their minds. They're
Sure.
scrambling. What should I do? What's my next role? I've been laid off 3 or 4 times already, whatever that number is. I don't want to go through that no more. How do I take my skills and apply them? How do I understand. These are
Sure.
things that I went through. When I came out, it hit me. I didn't have 4 years to plan.
Right.
So
The
what I
aim,
want
the
people,
aim that used to be there, the clarity of where you were headed, this
yes,
pandemic took that away and blurred everything.
exactly.
Yes, the
It
lines
blurred
are
everything.
blurred
Yeah,
and people are very concerned. And on top of not just the fear for losing their job and what's next, is attempting to, in the middle of all of this, still maintain a work-life balance.
exactly. Exactly.
You know, we don't
No,
worry about that enough in America.
we should.
People are robbed constantly of that work-life balance, or they're forced to choose between the two, which is the worst position a person can be put in.
Yeah.
You should
Without
never have
any
to choose
question.
between your parents, your children, your spouse, and your job. That just does not make sense. And the fact that we haven't done what every other civilized country in the world has done and find a way to create that balance. I mean, every European nation has a way to do that. We have
Yeah.
FMLA, but we've stripped it away and stripped it away till now it's not even a protection anymore.
Yep.
When it first came out, it was
For
a
sure.
solid protection. You could take time off. A good portion of it would be paid by most companies because insurance wasn't too expensive yet. And I know Katrina knows this because she was on the insurance side of this thing. But the fact is, it's been stripped away to where FMLA now only covers you for a very short period of time, and it's unpaid time, which means again you're choosing between paying your bills or taking care of your child, or taking care of your elder parent, or taking care of your spouse if they've been injured or they're sick. And that should never, you should never worry about being homeless because you're doing the right thing. That's crazy.
Yep. Yep. I get
That's
it.
for sure.
You know, but
I
who am
just
I?
finished,
I'm but a little teeny pin in the huge cog of American life. But
There's
American life is,
more out there.
yeah, American life is making big changes, and we've gotten so polarized that we're opposed to changes that are going to benefit us in a lot of cases because we just refuse to see it because of where it came from.
Yeah, absolutely.
you know, I would say to somebody that's in corporate right now, stop looking out the window at the world out there. Open the window, walk through the door, as they say, and come and join us.
Stop looking and be
play.
a part of it.
That's right. Stop looking at it, stop watching it go by, and come join us. It's a great game to play. We're having a great time, and we'd love to have you join us.
And Adam, you know this. You worked at New York, being in Chicago. To Shira's point, literally would walk down the street, and there's so many people around, right? And these people have their head down, and they're on their phones, and they're texting, and I would often say, "Hold your head up. The world's up here."
Yeah.
And that's what I want to say to people in corporate
Let's
now.
be
Hold your head up.
serious. This little device has robbed people of a good part of their life.
Oh yeah.
It
Without
really
any
has.
question.
I mean, as much as it is a miracle to have these devices, it really is. But at the same time, we weren't taught how to properly use them. So
No.
everybody's getting hooked on.
Well, just watch the Netflix special.
I saw it. That's why I'm saying that.
It'll change
Everyone's
your
hooked
life.
on different aspects of it too. They've built these
Yeah.
to be addictive to everybody for different reasons.
Yeah.
The teenagers are addicted to the likes they get for posting their Instagram photos. Adults are addicted to the information that they never were able to get without going to the library when they were
Yeah.
younger. There's something addictive to everyone somewhere in this device, but at the same time, This device has solved millions of problems that the world had before this device existed. So unfortunately, it's what we call a necessary evil, but it is evil, and people don't realize how evil. Just to show people, while we've been doing this show, okay, these are all the messages, and it's going to go off the
It
screen.
turned off.
Yeah.
I've ignored 20 people, and that's a problem. That's a
In
problem.
their mind. In their mind, it's a
No.
problem.
It's a problem that we're too available now. We
Yeah.
went from not being available, where if you know, when there were no cell phones, until you got home and listened to your machine, your answering machine, and before the answering machine, until you got home and they tried calling you again. And we're all of the age where we remember rotary dial phones.
How about I
Little
used
by
to
the
get
phone.
mad because there was caller, remember when people
Caller.
would call and you could hear the buzzer, somebody's trying to call?
Yeah.
I would say, why are they trying to call me? I don't want to click over. I wait till I finish this call.
Yeah, that call waiting was annoying when it first
Yeah.
came out to a lot of us. But what was even more annoying was everyone had to go and answer their phone. Who's this? You know?
Yes. Yeah.
Hello, who's calling?
Who's calling?
There was no call ID,
There's no picture.
no picture, no name showing up on a digital screen.
Yeah.
You know, we got robbed of any privacy in our lives when these things came out. I love my phone. I need my phone. You can't do business in today's world without your phone. And at
Well,
the
I
same
just
time, I would love to take it and drop it off the Empire State Building.
I just encourage people to set boundaries. I mean, we talk about time management. I do a lot of talking about time management with individuals because I learned to do that. I learned that, you know, I'm giving people my undivided attention. When I'm on the phone with them, I don't take another call. I just watch. I'm there with them. If I have to take another one, I will forewarn them. I might have to take another call because I'm waiting on something to come through. Other than that, I love to give people my undivided attention. I don't want to, you know, if somebody comes in the house or somebody, I just want people to understand that I'm listening. I'm a listener.
People
And
are,
that's one of the biggest problems right now is people are not receiving the attention they really, really want and they really, really need. And
so
when
they turn to this.
you and I,
Yeah.
because of, so when you and I and Adam are actually doing that, other people are doing the FOMO, fear of missing out. Oh my God, I've got to get it. It's ridiculous. So yeah,
When you have
pay
FOMO, when you
attention.
have fear of missing out, you're automatically missing out on your own life.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
drop your fear of missing out and be in whatever you're doing right now. That's my greatest advice. When I know, you know, whenever I meet someone and they tell me that their hobby involves a screen, whether it's the computer, the phone, or anything else, I'm like, that's great. Now get another hobby that has no electricity involved in it
Yeah.
to counterbalance it so you don't forget what real life is like.
Yeah.
You gotta
Being
stay connected.
present,
Yeah.
being present in this moment.
Couldn't agree with you more, Shira. And I really appreciate your co-hosting today. But more
Well,
than
thank
anything,
you.
I appreciate Katrina giving us her time today and her expertise to our watchers who ask questions. And I really highly suggest everybody read the book. Read the book.
right
Steal your
there.
skills from corporate. It is an excellent roadmap as well as a book. And it definitely will add to your knowledge. Even if you're not planning to leave corporate, it'll add to your knowledge of how to navigate corporate just a little more efficiently.
Yeah, that's good.
I read it, so I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
And
it's a
it was
guide.
good read. It's a
Oh,
fast read, too.
totally. I thought it was, you know, being from the book side, I just thought it was well written. It was well put together. It was well thought out. And that you gave people an opportunity to read and then think about how they could apply and or implement your strategies, your tools, your tips.
Well,
So
good.
And then you
kudos to
apply
you
them
and
to
well
your
done,
actual
Katrina.
personal experience, which may be
Yes.
even more riveting to read, because you present a problem, you show how it worked, and you show what you did to work
make
through it at the
To
same time.
solve it, yes.
Because I honestly believe that people could do this on their own, and I wanted them to take away from that. But everyone doesn't learn this. Everyone has different learning patterns. Some people can say, "Oh, I can use this book and I can do these things," and then some people like me will say, "I can read that. I understand what you're saying, but I need someone to sit with me." And then you have some people who say, "I'm not reading the book at all. I'm going to buy it and I need you to help with everything.
And
And
teach
so-
me everything that's in there that
Yeah.
I don't want to read.
And so a lot of my coaching comes from the book, but then I also, there's a caveat to me personally helping you and being that support system and adding things on that I learned that was outside of the book. And that's what it's all about for me. So go to my website, thecorporatebreakup.com. You'll learn more. That was a plug in there, Adam.
Well,
Well
I'll be putting
done,
all
Katrina,
of
well
your
done.
information, the corporate breakup, the name of the book, where to
Okay.
get it on Amazon. It's all going to be down there in that description box, which is right down there, right where
Okay.
my foot is right now. And it'll be in the description box, and ways to reach out to you as well
Yes.
will be in that description box. We always make our guests available to our viewers every week without fail. And Katrina, you're welcome to come back anytime.
Thank you. This was so much fun. This was a great conversation.
I'm
And
glad you
thank
had a
you
good
for
time.
allowing me to co-host your episode. And Adam, thank you for allowing me to co-host. I had a blast as always.
Shira, we love having you, whether it's being as a guest or as a co-host. You're a part of the team. I also heavily believe in the networking thing. So,
I do too.
I'll encourage everyone who asked us questions, everyone whose questions we answer today, network a little bit more. Spend 1 more hour a week in a networking event, meet new people, because the more you expand your network, the more support you'll have when the time comes that you'll need it.
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
my greatest advice in life. Even if you're not venturing on your own, support networks are the most important thing in life. Whether you're taking care of your elderly parents, and I did. My mom had dementia, and I was the sole caregiver for 3
Yeah.
years, and it was difficult.
So
I
Been there,
wish I had
done
had a
that.
bigger support network. And you don't want to have to scurry for it when something happens. You want it there before. So build your network. Make digital friends, make real friends. I would love to hang out with Katrina if I could, but unfortunately she's 2,140 miles from me. Shira and I, well, due to the pandemic, we haven't been able to meet up yet. We're closer, and we are planning to meet up soon.
We're only an hour and 15 minutes away.
A
if
friend
that
of all of
much.
ours, Tony P. from
Yeah.
Chicago, is actually coming out here to visit me and Isa of USFA,
You're
just so we
good.
can spend 2 days,
And I'm
sharing
driving up
ideas.
to be with them.
Yes,
So we'll all be together.
You're more than invited to come up and go to dinner with us when we go if you want. But I know right now you're a little weary of restaurants, and it's understandable. It's understandable. I don't tell anyone that they shouldn't be afraid. My uncle died from this pandemic.
Oh gosh.
He died of COVID-19. So I will never tell someone don't be afraid. However,
And you know what they're saying? The new variant is even more deadly.
it's
it
more
came out-
deadly, it's
Yeah.
more contagious,
Contagious.
and it may not, you may not be protected from it even if you've had the vaccine. So the vaccine was made for the original COVID, not for these variants. And so
Yep.
it may or may not protect you. So yeah, there's reasons to be afraid. I have no problem with that. People have the right to be afraid or not be afraid as they wish, but don't. I take offense when you try to force me to follow you. So in other words, the anti-masker who walks into a store, they tick me off a little bit because I'm wearing mine, and it's not for my protection. I'm wearing mine to protect the people around me in case I'm the carrier.
Yeah.
In
Exactly.
case I have a symptomless case. I couldn't sleep for the rest of my life if I knew that I didn't want to wear a mask for 10 minutes in the store, and I gave some 69-year-old person COVID and they ended up dying and their grandkids don't have a grandparent anymore. I couldn't live with that.
That's the guilt.
And the fact
Neither
that these
could
people
I.
could live with that scares me, because that's not what America's been about. I've seen this country come together unprecedented ways. When I've looked at the history reels during World War II, this country was cohesive. Democrat, Republican, they were tongue kissing each other. They loved each other to death. Okay. There were no arguments in Congress. The Senate still worked. Again, during the Korean War, there was some dissent and there were arguments, but we worked together. During the 80s under Reagan and the fall of communism, we still were able to work together. Ronald Reagan, the greatest conservative of my lifetime until recently, okay, gave amnesty to over 1 million illegal immigrants. I'm an independent. I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. I'm a realist.
Yeah.
And I'll leave it right there. I'll stop my political rant right there. I'm a realist. So don't come to me with fake facts. Don't come to me with tilted facts. Don't come, just come to me and put the fact in front of me. And that's it. Done. I don't need your reporting on top of it. The sun rose in the east. That's all I need to know.
Yeah.
On that note, I'm going to
And
wish
it's
everybody
setting
a
in the
great
west.
week. I'm going to wish everyone a great week. Kim will be back next week as we continue cruising into a better financial future.
Thank you, Adam.
Take
Bye,
care, everybody.
everybody.
Thank you for being a part of Cruising into a Better Financial Future. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss a future episode. We'll see you next time. Bye.